Your eyes are getting bigger, you breathe faster, your fists are tightening, you grind your jaw, and your brain is heating up. What is this? Why is this? How is this taking control? It's interesting to think about how anger and rage became part of who we are. These emotions likely started as survival tools, ways for early humans and even animals to protect themselves, defend their territory, or compete for food and safety. In those early environments, reacting quickly and forcefully could mean the difference between life and death. Anger helped the body get ready to fight or take control. But now that we live in a very different world, it raises a question: is anger still serving us in the same way? Most situations today aren't life or death. They often require cooperation, patience, and problem solving, not immediate aggression. So while anger still has a purpose, like alerting us when something feels wrong, it might not always be the best guide for how to respond. Uncontrolled anger can hurt our relationships, cloud our thinking, and raise the risk of mental health problems like depression, anxiety, and addiction. It also affects our body, especially our brain and heart. When we are angry all the time, our brain stays in high alert mode. This destroys our clarity, memory power, and weakens our mind control. Over time, this stress can wear down parts of the brain that help us make good decisions and stay calm. It also weakens our immune system and increases the chance of serious health problems like heart disease. It makes you wonder, maybe thriving as humans today means learning to listen to our anger and to evolve beyond it. Anger often arises when our desires are obstructed, when something or someone stands between us and what we want. At its core, anger is a reaction to unmet expectations, thwarted goals, or perceived threats to our values, ego, or identity. Anger is both a symptom and a cause of suffering. It may even lie in fanaticism and obsessive attachments to opinions, beliefs, ideologies, thoughts, or dogmas without placing reason, clarity, and higher consciousness as the top priority. This mental rigidity makes people more prone to anger, especially when challenged. They believe they're the smartest and carry an air of intellectual superiority. They are easy to irritate because they think everyone is dumb and stupid and doesn't know a thing. They take it a step further by blaming everyone else for their anger, refusing to take any responsibility themselves. Often, individuals who present intellectual justifications for their anger are, in reality, lacking clarity, love, and inclusive creativity. Instead of engaging in understanding, they generalize and demean, calling others stupid or ignorant to protect their fragile worldview. Sometimes, they even show anger as a performance by publicly criticizing others to elevate their own moral image, not necessarily because of a deep desire for justice, but because it boosts their status, making them feel powerful, right, intelligent, and respected in the eyes of others. Anger and outrage become a tool of social signaling rather than truth-seeking. This is where anger and rage disguise themselves as strength and masculinity, when, in reality, these emotions often come from a place of insecurity, lack of control, or emotional immaturity. Anger heats the brain and weakens the nervous system over time, leading to a gradual decline in spiritual resilience and a loss of true inner power, making us live life more unconsciously than in higher consciousness. We may blame other people for causing our anger, or we may blame our genetics. But the more we blame external factors for our internal state, the more we reveal that we are just weak and slaves to external factors. When we act out of uncontrolled rage and anger, we make others angry too. Energy is contagious, no matter what kind. Others will seek retaliation, since they, like us, are also not in control of their anger. Over time, we become their target and increase the chances of being attacked by the anger in our surroundings. In this way, we unconsciously create more situations where anger becomes the way to deal with things, further pulling society down from its evolutionary and creative potential, rather than choosing moments of pause, silence, self-awareness, and understanding. Every moment is an opportunity to gain control over ourselves and our surroundings. To be free from our anger is to be free from everyone else's anger. Once we are free from it, gaining control over it becomes natural, and with that, the ability to manage angry, unconscious people and environments. However, people who are blinded by anger assume that the best way to release anger quickly is to vent out to somebody. This may give temporary relief, but just like any uncontrolled energy, the more you exercise this temporary relief, the easier it gets for you to get blinded by anger in future. It makes one more compulsive and more unconscious. You become more prone to irritation and neurosis. Your value and character diminish in everybody's eyes too. Anger often makes us feel alone, just like sadness can. When we're angry, we feel a burst of energy, but deep down, there's frequently pain and suffering too. We usually believe our anger is justified, especially if it's caused by feeling hurt, jealousy, or the need to protect ourselves. But maybe this sense of justification is just a way to avoid looking honestly at ourselves. What's interesting is how we keep the anger going. It's not the first moment of anger that makes it strong. It's how we think and talk about it afterwards. When we explain or repeat the story behind our anger, whether out loud or in our heads, we give it more power. It turns into something bigger, a story we start to believe is part of who we are. Could it be that we're not trying to understand our anger, but trying to keep it alive? Most of the time, when we admit we're angry, we also try to explain why. This might be a way to protect ourselves from feeling weak, hurt, or scared. Maybe what we call righteous anger is really hiding a deeper need for approval, love, or a sense of identity. When anger stays with us, it often turns into resentment. People say forgiveness is the answer, but maybe the real question is why we hold on to anger in the first place. Trying to control or push it down doesn't really solve it, it just moves it somewhere else. Maybe the real solution is in self-awareness. If we can watch our feelings and reactions without trying to change them, explain them, or escape from them, something begins to shift. At some point in our lives, many of us have noticed that anger brings unwanted consequences, but we realize it too late. We often see it only after we've acted. And of course, many of us feel the need to apologize, but we don't. Maybe we do, but it's already too late. This can leave us with regret. But there is a way. When you avoid situations in advance that could make you angry, when you stop blaming others, when you start physical exercises, when you start breathing deeply and slowly, when you choose to begin the process of self-awareness in your life, the gap between anger-driven actions and regret reduces to nothing. Then, after discovering the gap between your anger and your anger-driven actions, your constant awareness reduces that gap to nothing. Then there is your anger and you. Your awareness reduces that gap to nothing until there is either just you or just the anger. Either way, both can be life transformative as long as the fire of awareness is kept alive. The awareness sees its stupidity and drops the madness. The nerves start to become calm and strong. You become a master inner alchemist who has learned to transmute energies from one flow to another. You stand at the center of the tornado, calm, untouchable, and untouched by the chaos around you. Now, when you have gone through this transformative journey, your capability to forgive is more potent than the fake forgiveness you were taught and conditioned by moral teachers. You forgive not because you think it's a good thing to do, but because you understand how the other is blinded by his rage and lacks the foresight to see how he might destroy his own life. You naturally develop patience, strength, and understanding that are unshakable and powerful. You become a source of inspiration to many who are blinded by this uncontrolled force. You become that creative force, which is way more potent than the destructive force that is driven by anger and rage. You also realize anger is just an intense energy that you are not in control of. Now you control this intense energy and use it the way you want. After all, you are the alchemist. You are the master. The sun was fierce even at 30,000 feet. The windows of the plane felt warm to the touch, and the air outside shimmered over endless stretches of dry, cracked land. Most of the passengers had drifted into light sleep, rocked by the low hum of the engine. Ella sat by the window, watching the scorched earth below. When the plane landed for a brief stop, the heat outside was immediate, thick, angry, and almost painful. Even in the shade, it felt like the sun was pressing down hard, daring anyone to stay calm. Back in the air, two new passengers took the seats across from her. A man and a woman, maybe family, maybe friends. At first their conversation was low, but quickly their voices rose. "You always blame me," the man said sharply. "And you never take responsibility," the woman shot back. They argued without holding back, like they had done it many times before. It was raw, tired, and familiar. The rest of the cabin faded for them. They were trapped in their own heat. Ella looked away, but their anger lingered in the air like the summer outside. It reminded her of a fight she once had, loud words thrown in a kitchen, years of silence that followed. Anger, she realized, is like heat. It builds quietly, then explodes when there's no release. As the plane climbed higher, the cabin cooled. The voices across from her dropped. The woman stared out of the window. The man looked down at his hands. Ella closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to breathe in the quiet that had returned. Maybe anger, like heat, always passes if you become aware of it and let it go.